Hello, everyone, and happy Sunday. I hope you've enjoyed the weather so far this weekend. It's actually been pretty nice so far. So we're going to talk about tonight's storm potential. It's still in the works. If you've been paying attention to the forecast at all, you know that we've been talking about a lot. So if you have questions about tonight's forecast, about the storm potential, feel free to ask them in the comments. If you're watching from Facebook or one of our other platforms, like I think YouTube, you can comment as well. I'm not sure about Twitter, but regardless, we'll do our best to cover. I'll do my best, I guess it's just me, to cover all the bases in terms of what we're going to be expecting for tonight. Because I know a lot of people get some storm anxiety, and that is perfectly normal, and that's perfectly all right. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But as more people continue to jump on, we are going to talk about, we'll get started with a live view from our SkyTrack camera. This is overlooking downtown Louisville, and it's beautiful so far tonight. I mean, we've seen a really nice day. Don't get me wrong. It has been a hot day so far. We did make it up to 89 degrees in the city. Just a beautiful looking sky. You would never really know that it was going to be kind of a stormy night. But we are going to be expecting things to obviously change, not only for the storm chances, but also the forecast for this upcoming week. We made it to a high today of 89 degrees, like I mentioned before, nowhere near the record of 100, thankfully. That was set back in 1918. But so far, our low has been 76. Okay, so here is the nitty gritty, or well, more so kind of the overview, I guess you could say, for the alert day for tonight. And I know it's kind of confusing saying alert day for tonight, but you just got to bear with us. The timing will be likely sometime between, they will begin right around, I would say 11 or midnight, might even push it back a little bit more. And then we'll see that severe threat likely end by about 5 or 6 a.m. So I think just before sunrise tomorrow, the severe potential is going to be much lower. And if it isn't over with already, but the main impacts will be damaging wind gusts. Okay. So I know a lot of people kind of disregard when we have strong winds. I know it's been a very gusty year, so hopefully that's not the case for us. But we are going to be expecting wind gusts as high as around 50 to 60 plus miles per hour. Hail is also a potential. So you want to make sure you're parking your car in the garage or under an overhang tonight. And then also we do have a low risk. I don't even like saying this, but we have a low risk of a tornado or two. Some of these storms could be rotating, could have some embedded rotation. I think any storms that are rotating, it will be brief, and they'll likely be embedded. So not a high risk of a lot of severe weather. In all honesty, there's still some uncertainty with this forecast, just like what there was last night. But we are a little more confident with tonight's forecast than what we saw last night. And hey, we didn't have severe weather last night. Hopefully everyone was able to rest easy. Any storms that form tonight, though, there's going to be plenty of lightning. So something to keep in the back of your mind that we could expect a loud night. You might wake up, your pets or your kids might wake up, and it's just one more reason to download the Way Weather app, because you'll get alerts. That way you can check to see the radar, if there's a warning, or if there's just a storm in your area. It's always a good idea to check that. And then if we're live and there is a warning just within the region, you can also watch us live there. So we always talk about the weather app, but it's for good reason, because it is really a great tool to have when it comes to nights like this. Okay, so we're going to talk now about the radar, because we have some storms off to our west, and we're going to be watching that potential very closely. That has sparked several tornado warnings, but the environment for tornado development has been better across parts of Illinois, more specifically Central Illinois. So if I have anyone watching from Central Illinois, I hope everyone's staying safe, because we have several warnings now, a few tornado warnings of what we've seen so far. But here's the thing with our potential. We are going to see this more than likely kind of congeal into what we call an MCS, a mesoscale convective system. And essentially that's just going to be a large, almost kind of cluster or line of storms that will be plunging in from our north and west. And that's why one of the main impacts will be damaging wind gusts, because a lot of times we can see these bowing segments. So you know how a bow and arrow has a kind of arch to it. That's why we call them a bow echo, because along the leading edge, it looks like a backward C almost in a lot of ways. That leading edge is where we have the most powerful concentrated wind gusts. So that's why I'll show you more of that in Futurecast in just a moment. But yeah, we have several tornado warnings right now. Not for our area, of course. This is Illinois. This is actually where I used to work a couple of years ago in central Illinois. So near Taylorsville, or Taylorville, excuse me. We call it Taylorsville in Kentucky. It's Taylorville in Illinois. But south of Decatur, a lot of lightning with these. And that's going to be, I think, a very common trend that we have with the storms that we're expecting overnight tonight. Any that can make it here, of course. Starting to see a little bit more consistency of the models that something is going to move through. So that's always helpful, because yesterday it has been tough trying to get the forecast where it needs to be, or just use the models as a guidance for the forecast to get to where we need to be. But this is going to be a part of what's heading our way. You'll see this kind of light red shaded area. That is where we have a tornado watch. Again, this is for central Illinois. I know I keep saying we, but they have a tornado watch in place for central Illinois. It's unclear right now. We haven't heard anything from the Storm Prediction Center about if they are going to expand that further east, but I'm thinking maybe closer to Evansville than us, because again, that is where we have the better ingredients. That's where they've had the higher risk of seeing some of these tornadoes. Even the Storm Prediction Center has outlined that. They put us under a much, much lower risk. And again, because our main impact will be from the damaging wind gusts. And this is all part of this large area of low pressure that's swirling off to our north. And once it exits this low pressure system, we'll start to see some more changes to our forecast too, believe it or not. If you like some cooler temperatures, I cannot believe how cool we've been this summer. And cool obviously is a relative term, but it's pretty wild. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more. We've shown this a couple of times today, and I posted this online. This is from the Storm Prediction Center. This is that level 2 of 5. That's where you see in yellow. Pretty much all of our counties are included in this, the only exception being the southern half of Adair County. But regardless, it just goes to show we've been telling you about this for a couple of days now. We've been telling you about this for a couple of days now because we've had a pretty decent heads up for the risk of a couple of strong storms. So we've been watching it. It was just, how was last night going to play into today, and if it was at all. So it was kind of interesting to see how it all panned out. But I was happy with last night because that meant I didn't have to stay up extra late and I was able to get a little bit more sleep than I initially thought it was. So that's always good. Okay, so let's talk about tonight. Again, our time frame, I'm thinking about honestly pushing it back to 12 a.m. But regardless, by 11 o'clock tonight, you should be good to go in terms of moving your vehicle into your garage, under the overhang, wherever that might be. Just making sure your pets are in good shape, your kids feel safe, everything like that. You know, your yard furniture, patio furniture, anything that might blow away if you have a hammock. I read today where I saw someone's hammock had blown away with some storms that were in Colorado. And I didn't think about that. The ones that are like, not the ones that are like made of rope, but the more canvas ones. So I know those are really popular. I actually want one myself. So, just make sure you watch out for things like that, because when we have strong gusts of wind, those are the type of things that can be impacted. So we just always want to be careful and be mindful of that. We'll see likely some cells or honestly clusters or broken lines of storms. That's going to be kind of the overall storm type that we have. And that's why damaging winds will be one of the bigger threats we see. Also some hail with some of the taller thunderstorms. And then the low risk of a tornado. These are going to be very brief, very isolated. We're not expecting widespread, severe weather tonight, but don't be surprised if there are a couple of warnings. And then that frequent lightning I mentioned before can wake you up. And it can be kind of scary sometimes. I don't like lightning. I know it probably sounds silly coming from a meteorologist, but Lightning is not my favorite. It is just bottom line very unpredictable. And at least with other types of severe weather, you can usually tell when it's coming. You have some lead time. With the exception of something like, flash flooding is a little bit different, but at least we know if it's, raining heavily in a spot, whereas lightning, it can strike and almost, kill you in an instant. So that's why you want to stay inside whenever we have lightning. Or you can hear thunder. You can always remember, when thunder roars, go indoors. I know it sounds very cheesy, but it's helpful for a lot of people. So we want to make sure everyone's staying safe. Okay, here is the timeline. You'll see it's not necessarily a 100% chance of rain. That's going to be because not everyone will see rain all night long. And not everyone will see strong storms either. I think the best chances will be along and north of the parkways. So that's where we have, I think, the best chances of, the best ingredients being in place, because this is going to be weakening as it moves its way to the south and east, more than likely. So that's why by about 5 a.m., I think most of us are going to be done with the severe weather risk, the threat. However, we'll probably still have to deal with a couple of lingering showers. So I really think the morning rush, I'm hoping it will be spared, and I really feel fairly confident that it will be. We'll probably still have some wet roadways, but at least we don't have lots of people trying to drive out and, some heavy downpours and strong storms. We don't want any of that. So you'll see that chances of rain taper off gradually throughout the rest of the morning. And then we'll see a couple more shower and storm chances throughout tomorrow afternoon. That will be mainly associated with this system exiting. And we'll also expect the return of some gusty winds. It's almost going to feel kind of like a spring-ish day as we head into tomorrow, believe it or not. So yeah, I lost my train of thought because I was reading your all's comments, and I will get to some of your all's comments in a little bit. I wanted to kind of get through the nitty-gritty, as I was saying before, so that way maybe I'll answer some of your questions, so you don't have to wait as long either. So, okay, that's what we're expecting in terms of the timeline. Again, best chances will be along and north of the parkways. That is the Western Kentucky Parkway, the Bluegrass Parkways. Almost said Bowling Green because I was thinking BG. So we are going to be, that's where we'll have the best ingredients more than likely in place. Okay, so this is one of our in-house models, a high-resolution model that we use that kind of shows what the radar might look like in the future over the course of the next couple of hours. As I always say, we look for trends. We don't necessarily take this verbatim. And I see a lot of people asking about specific areas. Just try to know where you are in reference either to the Ohio River, whether you're north or south of that. And I'll also point out where the parkways are. So the parkways essentially go from about, I always kind of think of it right around Bardstown, from Lexington to Bardstown to E-Town to Litchfield, kind of stretching. It's, south of Louisville. So try to know where you're at when you're looking at a map like this. But okay, I do want to take you through Futurecast because we'll see these showers and storms dive in from our north and west. And you'll see what I mean with some of these Boeing segments. You'll see what I mean with some of these Boeing segments because a lot of them form in clusters. So we can see a couple of different areas where they have that Boeing and that arching line almost. And that's where we see those really strong and powerful wind gusts because we'll have some strong winds at upper levels of the atmosphere. And some of those could make their way down closer to the surface where we are, where we feel them. And that's where we might expect some of those stronger wind gusts. And if you guys are worried about the storms tonight, and if anyone's going to be here, we will. Tawana and I have already coordinated our schedules. And I'll probably be staying a little late if things start to get, especially if things start to get a little too dicey. But we will make sure that you guys are in good hands. We don't ever want to leave you hanging. And I especially don't want to leave Tawana hanging when she has to come in the middle of the night too. That's not the best way you want to start work. So if you are worried about that, we will cut in and break in as needed. And of course, update social media and all that good stuff too. And I also want to point out too on Twitter, if you've noticed that we haven't been posting quite as much, it's because some of our posts we're not able to send them out through how we show our weather graphics and our maps on TV. We can usually send those out through social media too. And we're no longer able to do that because of what's happening now with Twitter or X or whatever it is. So that is something that's out of our control. So if it seems a little bit delayed, or if you're not seeing as many alerts as you normally do, that's probably why. Again, that's why the app is a really great tool to have, because if there is a warning, if there are warnings, you will be able to see that in the app. It will alert you if you turn on those settings. It's really easy to use. Honestly, it helps me too when I'm off work and I'm like when I'm not paying close attention to the forecast, it helps me too. So just a heads up for those of you on or watching from Twitter. I did want to point that out because I know we've been dealing with that the last couple of days. I know Ryan noticed it last week. And then yesterday when we had the tornado watch come out, it went out on Facebook, but it did not go out on Twitter. So we were trying to fix that. Okay, so here is Futurecast. I think by midnight, our far northern counties, I would say like Orange County, Jackson and Jennings County, even parts of Washington County in Indiana, you will start to see some showers and storms potentially if this is the timing we're using. So again, this is why I say after 11 o'clock, it will move in from the north and west and eventually inch its way to the south and east. We've seen this time and time again. So that's just something to kind of remember as this is trucking its way on through. It could arrive in Louisville, I would say between 1 and 2:30 in the morning. But you'll notice how much weaker it is by the time it gets here in the metro in Jefferson County. That's good news. I'll show the other model, the other high resolution model we typically look at too. And that will kind of help paint the picture of which scenario we're kind of leaning towards. But regardless, I think it will be weakening, and we'll still expect some gusty winds. And then by 5 a.m., most of us are pretty dry, maybe a few straggling showers or rumbles of thunder to our south. And then we'll see some dry time after this all moves through. Okay, here's the other model we use. This is the HRRR or the HRRR. You probably heard us, not to be punny, but you probably heard us talk about it before. This is one that the National Weather Service also uses because it's available for all of the public to use essentially. So we'll expect this to dive in from our north and west as well. At least this model is painting the picture by about a little bit slower, a hair slower. By 1 a.m., it's almost making it to Jackson County and also into parts of Orange County and Indiana. So that's why I think between 11 o'clock and midnight, make sure you have your plans in place, that you're situated, ready to go, you're comfortable. You have your PJs on, whatever that might be. You have your phone devices charged up. Make sure you do that. I was bad last night and I forgot to charge my phone. So don't be like me. Make sure yours is all charged up just in case. With gusty winds, we always have the potential of a couple of power outages. I don't think it's going to be terribly widespread though, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. Yes. Okay. So anyway, this is showing us through now, fast forward to about 2:30 in the morning. And again, it's slower than the previous model I just showed you. I think we'll probably be a little bit faster because it doesn't even show this line making it to Louisville by 2:30 in the morning. But it is a little bit more broken apart, that kind of cluster where we had that Boeing segment. But this is a scenario where we could see a couple of kinks in the line when we have, we say that a lot because that's where we can get some notches and where we can get some quick rotation that might happen. And that's where we get those very, very brief, very isolated tornadoes that are so quick, the radar hardly picks them up. They're very short warning. So I don't want anyone to panic because I know I have a lot of questions already about the tornado potential. And I get it. It is very anxiety provoking. I was the same way growing up, but it's going to be a low threat. Not completely ruling it out. Doesn't mean we can't see a warning or two, but the odds are lower than especially some gusty winds. So winds can still be destructive and damaging at times. So that's why I want us to pay attention to not just the tornado threat, but also the wind potential too. And hail is not fun either. I mean, gosh, we've had some big hail over the last couple of years. We all remember what happened at French Lick a couple of months ago, I think. When was that? May, June? I can't even remember now. All the time just rushes together. But you want to keep that in mind too. Hail is not fun to deal with either. When it's small, it's fine usually, but when we start to see some larger hail involved, don't love to see that. But okay, we'll continue to take you through about 4 a.m. You'll notice there's a lot fewer bright colors on the screen with this Futurecast. A couple of pockets of some brighter colors. That's where we might see some hill cores, things like that. And then eventually by sunrise tomorrow, the severe threat should be all said and done with. Okay, it looks like, okay, Abby Jester says, I have no sound. So let me know if you guys can hear me. I'm assuming you can because of all the comments. So maybe just like reopen your Facebook app, maybe, or you can watch it on YouTube or on the Wave app too. We're on there as well. Okay, looks like a couple of people can hear me from Facebook. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for that. I just want to double check because I talk to myself a lot, but it's not as fun when I'm doing it for several minutes like this when I'm trying to tell people important information, obviously. But okay, thank you. A lot of you guys are saying you can hear me fine. Okay, so tomorrow morning we will be by sunrise. Severe potential should be pretty much all said and done with. Across the Bluegrass region, we could see a couple of strong storms too. That would include a little bit in the way of some Adair County in our outlook for tomorrow. But I think it's going to be mainly for areas far to our east. So I'm not too concerned about that, in case you were wondering. Okay. Now we'll go back and answer some of your questions now that we've kind of gotten through the main points of what's going to be happening and unfolding tonight. And as I do that, I'm going to pull up the radar so we can have that kind of in the background and be watching it. That's like one thing I always do. I'm forever watching the radar. I feel like I've never not kind of what we call babysitting it. I do want to look because, yeah, those are certainly some supercell looking storms that we have in central Illinois right now. I'll take off the lightning, and I promise I'm going to get to your all's questions. So it looks like they have one tornado warning in central Illinois. And if I don't think I have anyone watching. I might, but this storm that's near Mason and south of Effingham, that is looking a little bit concerning. But again, that is very far away from us. It's hours away from us. We'll see how it kind of unfolds and pans out over the next couple of hours. So that's when I say I talk about watching the radar. This is what I do. I watch what's out ahead of us or to our west and see how it's behaving, because that'll help determine what's going to happen here. Oh, Marianne Carney, you are always so sweet, saying I love the Wave Weather app. I'm glad you can vouch for us. Harley says, what is Elizabethtown looking like for the overnight hours? You're going to be kind of on the cusp of seeing the strong storms. They will probably be a little weaker by the time they get to E-Town, at least with our current thought process, but still stay weather aware. And it will probably be closer to like well into the overnight hours, probably by about 2 or 3 in the morning, I would say, if by the time it gets to E-Town. David Klinger says, looks like it's not going to be a fun day working out at the landfill tomorrow. Oh my gosh. Well, please be careful. Hopefully the rain's done with by the time you have to get out there. May Ramirez says, how severe will it be? I'm in Jefferson County, Indiana. I think Indiana has a slightly better chance of seeing a couple of these strong storms, mainly with those damaging wind gusts. Same goes for Scott County, Indiana. Glinda says, hello to you, Glinda. It's always nice seeing you pop up on here. She says, hello, Jessica, hoping for a light impact in Bardstown. You and me both. Hello to Sean D from YouTube. Southern Indiana. What about the rest of Southern Indiana? Asks Suzette McDowell. Hopefully I answered your question. We've had a couple of you guys watching from Southern Indiana, including Jackson County. So Jackson County, I think you should especially be careful. Just with the chance of being closer to a more organized line that we might have, or a more organized cluster or segment. So I think you should definitely be on guard, and it will happen a little earlier on too. It's probably going to happen closer to midnight or 1 a.m. by the time it gets to you in Jackson County. At least that's what we're thinking right now. Sierra asked a good question. Are you guys going to be live again tonight? If we need to be, we will, but we'll be on tonight at 11, and our 11 o'clock newscasts on Sunday nights are an hour long. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of peace of mind. If you need to tune in, you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? If you don't see me on the TV and you don't see like a scroll happening with warnings, we might have a watch or two in place, but if you turn us on and you don't see that, that's usually a good sign that we're not seeing any severe weather just yet. But yeah, I usually do about 1 to 2 hits per half hour during the 11 o'clock newscast and then the 11:30. So hopefully that answered your question. Probably a long-winded answer. Good evening to you from Marianne Carney from Memphis, Indiana. Hello to you, Kentucky Girl on YouTube. Such a great name. Good evening to you, Angela in Spencer County. I have some friends who live out that way. Oh, wow. Sean D says there's a tornado in Illinois on the ground. Okay, let me see if I can find that report. I don't have my National Weather Service page pulled up over here, so I can't necessarily look. Ooh, there's probably some large hail with some of these storms too. Oh yeah, that's a decent hail core. And these are very rural parts for the most part of the state, which is always good and helpful. So I'm going to try and pull up to see. And Sean, if you know specifically which storm they're talking about. Okay, so not the tornado warning there. This one near Mason doesn't look great, but it's pretty far from the radar scan. Let's see. All right. Well, I'm not tornado possible, so I'm not seeing it just yet, but there might have been one earlier, so I'll have to take your word for it. Paul says, much needed rain for my garden here in Madison, Indiana. We've had a lot of rain. We've had a lot of rain here over the last couple of months, it feels like, or last month or two. It's been a very wet summer for us. And that's not very, but it's been a little more wet than usual. And I feel like everyone's gardens and everything's so lush because of all the rain we've been having. So, hey, at least it makes your job a little easier. So hopefully you'll get some rain for your garden. Hopefully not too much. Ted says, Litchfield here looks like a windy day tomorrow. Yeah, it's going to be a little gusty. And I'll talk about that too in a second because Todd Richmond says, please make Kevin stay up all night. He sleeps way too much. Listen, Kevin is like the glue that keeps us all together. And Kevin is like always watching this kind of stuff. So he's always on top of it. So he deserves a weekend too. He has worked some crazy long stretches for severe weather. So yeah, you can heckle him though if you want. That's fine by me. But he's always a huge help, especially when I'm on weekends. And because I'm typically by myself, but if we start to get some strong storms, we like to have at least 1 to 2 people, watching, or at least 2 people watching and kind of helping each other out when it comes to severe weather. Let's see. Sean says other YouTuber is storm chasing it. Okay, I'll have to find where that is. Let's see. Crystal says, is it supposed to be very bad in Louisville? It depends on what you mean by very bad. We'll likely see some gusty winds, some storms. The lightning will probably wake a lot of people up. So those will be the main impacts, but also some hail can't be ruled out. And then a very brief isolated tornado. We have to mention that. It's like covering our bases because obviously we've had better ingredients to our west where this tornado watch is and where we're getting reports of tornadoes or of a tornado or two, I guess I should say. So yeah, so I hope I answered a couple of your all's comments. Okay, I do want to touch base on this upcoming week because we have JCPS and so many of our big school districts, I think Bullitt County, heading back to school this week, which is crazy. I cannot believe it's already back to school season, but at least back to school season was always fun. It felt fun at least, like the first day of school. Then after that, like, okay, I'm ready to be done now. All right, so here is how the 3-day forecast is shaping up. So tomorrow, yes, it says a 60% chance, but that's going to account for what's happening overnight, early tomorrow morning. So I don't want you to think that tomorrow is going to be a complete and total washout. That's not the case. I've been saying that hopefully all weekend. Jackson 3 Ball says, are these storms moving southeast or east? They are going to move in a general southeasterly direction. We could be seeing some segments though that try to make more of an easterly or more of a southerly turn, just kind of depending on where some boundaries are. But okay, I want to talk about the forecast tomorrow. Wind gusts as high as 30 miles per hour. It is going to be noticeably cooler, less humid by Tuesday. Tomorrow night and then early Tuesday morning, 65 for our low. I think a couple spots could come close to the low 60s, upper 50s. Tuesday, pick of the week. It's going to be gorgeous. The pool, my apartment, is closed, and I really hope it's open by Tuesday because it's going to be so nice. Get outside, do something, because it's going to be beautiful. And then after that, Wednesday, so it says, yes, a 40% chance of storms Wednesday, but these won't arrive until much later in the day on Wednesday. But Wednesday night and into Thursday morning, we'll have to watch for another possible round of some strong storms. So that is what we're going to be watching next. And Sierra says, so far the main threat for Madison, Indiana is the winds. Just have to make sure we have a way to get warnings, ? Yes, you are correct. The main threat is wind. But there will be some hail we have to contend with, whether it's exactly over Madison. You'll just have to kind of watch out for that. And then if there are any of those warnings in place for your area, having something like a weather radio, having your devices charged up, your emergency alerts turned on. Those are like, I know they kind of freak you out when they make that loud noise when we have like Amber alerts and things like that, but they are a life-saving tool. So it lets people know, especially for people who don't always, watch the news or follow us on Facebook, or they don't have a super reliable way to get warnings. If they're like teenagers or something, make sure they have those alerts turned on. Okay, so we'll continue to fast forward. Wind gusts tomorrow as high as 20 to 30 miles per hour. And that's going to be due to this system exiting, and we'll see some big changes after that with the cooler, drier air rushing in. And then Wednesday morning, back to school for JCPS, Bullitt County Public Schools, Hardin County Schools, Madison Consolidated Schools, and Seymour Schools. I think those are some of some of our larger school districts in our area. So hopefully you're excited. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I've been fighting a cough like all day. Usually when I talk a lot, that's what happens. But anyway, back to school forecast looking great. Mid 60s to head to the school bus stop as you're getting ready for school. Mid 70s by lunchtime. Hopefully the kids can get a long recess and spend some time outside, because it's actually going to be really nice Wednesday still. A little more humid, and then temperatures in the afternoon will climb into the mid 80s. So just make sure they have some water, but I don't think we're going to have to worry too much about the showers. The shower activity is going to be for much later on in the afternoon and the evening. This is what I was mentioning, though, too, for Wednesday night and Thursday morning. So we have the severe weather potential to our west. That system's going to move a bit further to the east. So we'll have to watch it closely. We don't have an outlook for any of our counties right now from the Storm Prediction Center, but we'll watch that because this is day 4. We'll get an updated outlook for day 3 tomorrow, more than likely. Okay, I'll pull up the 10-day and answer a couple more questions, because I have been rambling on for a while, and a lot of you guys have jumped off here, it looks like. Claudia Calderon says, I'm so not used to this tornado weather. I used to live in the mountains. I know it can be kind of jarring. And she says she lives on the 3rd floor of an apartment in Jeffersonville, Indiana. Okay, so just make sure, Tawana is really good about this too. If you have like an interior stairwell, like if your stairwell in your apartment is one of those ones that's closed off, or if you have like sometimes there are like the ones that are fires. That's what mine has. It's kind of a fire exit, and it's encased in concrete. That would be your best bet. Or making friends with your neighbors on the 1st floor. And if there's a warning, heading downstairs, or calling up a friend who has a basement, somewhere a little more a little more secure. But I think with the tornado threat being pretty low, you should be okay. It's just the wind that could be intense for you. So just be really careful and cautious, and make sure you can wake up for those warnings. That way you can head to a safe place, and you maybe reach out to a friend or something tonight and say, hey, can I come hang out with you for a little bit while the storms are happening? Or maybe just have a little sleepover, whatever it might be. But here's a 10-day, by the way. Temperatures are going to be below average, which is wild to see this time of year. Normally it is blazing hot and humid. I mean, we're getting close to the state fair. And we'll see a couple rounds of rain. It's going to turn a little active Friday night, Saturday. We could see a front try to push through, or maybe even Saturday night. That will give us another round of cooler weather potentially by the end of the weekend into the following Monday. So lots to look forward to. Trying to look at the brighter side of things when I do the forecast, and sometimes it's not always the easiest. With a forecast like this, where it feels kind of more like spring with all the severe weather we've been dealing with, especially on the weekends. So yeah, anyway, it's been really nice chatting with everyone. I hope I was able to answer a lot of your questions. Again, we will post updates as much as needed. We will cut in for on live TV, or if you watch from Wave Weather Now, Facebook, whatever that might be, we will cut in for any warnings, tornado warnings, that is, as needed. So hopefully that gives you some peace of mind. It's not going to be widespread severe weather outbreak, just some pretty typical gusty winds that we can see sometimes. But anyway, we will see you back here tonight at 11. Again, our Sunday night newscasts at 11 are an hour long. So if you missed the first half hour for whatever reason, you can always tune in for the second. And I will for sure have an update of the forecast then, because the storms will be much closer and we'll have a much better idea too of how things are behaving at that point. So try to get some rest, everyone, and try to relax. I know so many people are stressed out and I hate that, but I understand, I promise. This is not very fun for us either, but it's quite literally our jobs and what we are here for. So we will hopefully make sure you feel safe and comfortable. But okay, have a great night, everyone. We will see you here back tonight at 11 for that 11 o'clock newscast, and hopefully not any sooner for any warnings.